This is Indigenous Insights, special topics missing and murdered Indigenous women. My name is Mitch Bolo. I'm a member of the Keweenaw Bay Indian community. I live and work on a reservation in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Joining me on the air, my sister Ariel, also a member of the KBIC, and she works in Indigenous Victims Services. Ariel, welcome back.
Thanks.
Okay, so Ariel and I have a little bit of an announcement to make before we get going on this week's episode. Ariel, we're going to be adding the video aspect to these episodes soon, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that'll
hopefully soon.
That'll be incorporated in the YouTube videos. We'll have some video content. And then you've also been splicing in like images and video clips to the YouTube videos already, right?
Yeah, as much as I can.
So then we'll have cameras I'll have a camera in my studio, and Ariel will have a camera set up in her. What do you have, a home studio?
Yeah.
So this is kind of a side question, but are there going to be appearances from your cats?
Probably.
All right, so these episodes air on Eagle Radio every Saturday at noon Eastern Time. You can find them on YouTube. We have an email address. Ariel, give them the email.
indigenousinsightsmmiw@gmail.com.
We're also on Twitter. Please don't hesitate to contact us, whether it's questions, comments, suggestions, support, or criticism, or maybe you have an idea or knowledge on a story we could feature. Just get a hold of us. All right, so let's get into it. Let's learn who we're talking about today. Ariel, take us in.
This week we're going to talk about Khadijah Britton, who was 23 years old when she went missing from Covelo, California on February 7th, 2018.
All right, so let me take my notes here so I can get my questions. Khadijah?
Yep.
What was her last name?
Britton.
Kadijah Britain. And she went missing when?
February 7th, 2018.
February 7th, 2018. At the age of what?
23.
At the age of 23. So my math. So that's just over a year she's been missing.
Yeah, almost 14 months.
Okay, Khadijah Britain. She went missing February 7th, 2018 at the age of 23. Okay, continue to tell us about Khadijah.
She is a member of the Round Valley tribe in Covelo, California, which is a small town in the northwest part of the state in Mendocino County. And less than 2,000 people live there, and I've heard that there's only one stoplight. You know, the class sizes in high school are really small, like 20 people graduate at a time. And it reminded me a lot like Berga about KBIC.
Well, that's actually even smaller than us here.
Yeah, because it's over 2,000 there, right?
Yep, and the class sizes, I think I graduated with somewhere between 30 and 40, so that's a little bit smaller where you're talking about.
And it seems like a place where everybody knows everybody, and if it's that small, that's understandable.
Absolutely.
But Khadijah loves sports. She played basketball in high school, and her family describes her as always smiling, and her little cousins have said that her smile lights up the room. But Khadijah's family reported her missing after realizing it had been a couple days since anybody heard from her. And so they reported her missing on February 9th, or 10th, which was that Saturday after her last contact on the 7th.
Okay.
And initially the family says that police treated it as if she ran off with her boyfriend. Mendocino County, who was responsible for the investigation of Khadijah's disappearance, told the family that she was probably just hiding out somewhere. Eventually, the family convinced the sheriff's office detectives to do a press conference, and that was held within a few days of her being reported missing. And from that press conference, a witness came forward about what they saw happen that night of February 7th.
Okay. All right, so hold on. Before we even continue, I do want to note one of the differences here from our other cases. She was missing for, you said, about 3 days before she was reported missing?
Yeah, a couple days.
Okay, so like in a couple of our other stories, the parents were, they were on the case really quick because it's not often their daughters would go along without contacting them. So there's a few days in this one.
Right, but I mean, in some cases, it's been a week that they realize, like, oh, I haven't been able to hear from her. Have you heard from her? So it kind of like back and forth between the family figuring out when was the last time somebody actually contacted her. Yeah,
I guess so. And I guess these days with technology, it's a little easier to narrow that down.
Yeah. So the witness that came forward said that Niji Fallis, who is Khadijah's ex-boyfriend, came to a house to get Khadijah, to force her to come with him. And he dragged her outside of that house at gunpoint, made her get into a black Mercedes with another female who was driving, and then they drove off.
And what was that date?
On February 7th.
That was the 7th. So that was the last time that she was confirmed to be seen?
Right.
Okay. So many questions already. Okay, so I guess I want to back up again. The police told her parents that she had probably run off.
Yeah.
What were they basing that on? I mean, had she run off before?
Not from what I could find, and I don't know if it was something that they haven't said, but I mean, I have read about different issues with drug use and drug addiction within some of these peoples and their families, so I don't know if that's related to it either.
Okay. So then that probably answers my next question a little bit. What did she have any kind of criminal record, or, had she had run-ins with the police before?
Nothing that I could find that was public, no.
Okay.
But she might have. I don't know for sure.
Okay, so then another question. They obviously were having relationship problems leading up to this. Do you know what caused, that problem that day on the 7th, 2018?
I don't know what caused it, but there was a history of domestic violence between the two.
Okay.
And I can go into that a little bit more in a second here.
All right, so I think I'm just about caught up then. And who was the witness that called in and said they witnessed that?
The witnesses remained anonymous.
Oh, they remained anonymous. Okay. So, that catches me up. Okay, so she disappeared on the 7th. She was forced into her car at gunpoint by her then-boyfriend and another female?
Yeah, the other female was waiting in the vehicle.
Who was this female?
I'm not 100% sure, and I haven't been able to find anything that's solid saying that that's who it was. So okay. I don't want to mention that just yet.
So the anonymous just said it was another female.
Yeah. Okay,
so what was that guy's name?
Niji Fallis.
Niji.
Yeah.
So that's an Ojibwe word.
Well, it's Negie.
Negie. Oh, I see.
So okay. It's different than like Nij.
Yeah, okay. I was like, hey, look at that Ojibwe guy over there. Causing trouble, it sounds like. Oh, boy.
Well, based on the tip from the anonymous witness and information regarding a previous incident, police tracked Niji down and arrested him on February 19th, so 12 days after she went missing.
Okay.
And he was arrested on the suspicion of kidnapping, domestic violence, and felon in possession of a firearm because of a previous incident with Khadijah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this time they have the guy in custody. He's arrested. He's being charged. I'm guessing...
But he is being charged on like, it's not related to the disappearance exactly, but it is related to Khadijah.
Okay, the kidnapping, because he forced her in the car.
Well, no, that's like a separate kidnapping.
Oh, I see.
So on January 30th, so about a week before she was last heard from, Kadijah was with a friend at her friend's grandma's house in Cavelo. According to police that responded there that night, Kadijah said she was hanging out there, and Niji, someone who she had been in a relationship with for about a year, showed up at the house demanding that Kadijah come outside with him. She told police that Niji grabbed her by her hair and pulled her out of the house towards a white Mustang. She fell to the ground, and Niji started punching her in the face, kicking her in the chest, and started beating her in the head with a hammer.
My God.
Kadijah said Niji told her that he would kill her if she didn't get into the car. So she got in, and Niji drove off, and they started arguing. I don't know what that argument was about, but it prompted Niji to turn around and go back to that house where Kadijah was to confront Kadijah's friend. So while Niji was doing that, Kadijah was able to get out of the car, hide in a field behind a stump until Niji left again, and then was able to run to her dad's and call tribal police for help.
And that's where the kidnapping charge stemmed from?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so that's just crazy. That's just ridiculous. That's just such a bad situation to be in. I mean...
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us what happened with this guy after he was picked up 12 days after the 7th, after she was missing.
Well, sometime in that week between the incident and when she went missing, Kadijah went to the police to try and drop the charges against Niji for that night.
Okay.
But she told Niji's new girlfriend and the mom that she'd dropped the charges, And Kadijah's family thinks that she was coerced into going to the police to try and change things, and that Niji might have been threatening to do harm to Kadijah's brother if she followed through with anything.
Okay.
But I don't like when people say that they want to drop charges, because there's not really a charge that they can drop because the state brings the charges. So no matter what Kadijah would have said to them, like, the state continues with their investigation and stuff.
Yeah.
So she wasn't able to do that anyways. But the kidnapping and domestic violence charges were eventually dropped because of lack of evidence, and Kadijah wasn't there to testify to anything anymore.
Okay, so she couldn't get the case dropped, but she could not testify.
Right, she couldn't testify because she went missing.
Oh, okay, now I'm catching up. I thought you meant she chose not to testify.
Oh, no. It was because she went missing.
Okay, so that adds a whole level to it. So she might have went missing so she couldn't testify.
Maybe. I don't know. Or maybe something happened to her because people didn't want her to testify.
Yeah, okay, so...
Well, but with less charges pending, he still had the felon in possession of a firearm charge on him, but his bond was reduced, and he was bailed out of jail in June until his trial in October. So he was just back out in the community after all of this.
And what charges was he still facing?
Felon in possession of a firearm, and he was sentenced to 4 years in prison just this past December for that.
So he had the firearm. The police found him with a firearm 12 days later. How could they not charge him, with what they did to this girl? Didn't multiple people see it?
Well, there was the one anonymous witness that said that that's what he pulled her out of the house at gunpoint that night she went missing, but that's all they really have so far for that.
Okay.
And they did try charging him for the January 30th incident, but that's what fell apart with Kadijah being missing.
I suppose he has lawyers fighting for him too, and they're poking holes anywhere they can.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I got that. So, all right, keep going with it.
Well, Niji Fallis has a history of domestic violence, and not only with Kadijah. He's been brought to court on 4 separate domestic violence charges in the past. And Kadijah's family said that he was the type to try and control whatever woman he was talking to, and he'd be talking to a bunch of different women at the same time, and they'd all be his girlfriends, and he'd isolate all of them, which is classic behavior from an abuser.
Yeah, I mean, it's also kind of, what is that, like sociopathic or psychopathic a little bit?
Yeah.
I mean, that's messed up.
And at the time of Kadijah's disappearance, his girlfriend was Antonia Bautista Dawson. And it's been shown that she might have been in the vehicle that night where that witness saw Niji force Kadijah out of the house at gunpoint.
So, wait, what shows that she might have been the one?
Based on, it's not proven, but it's speculation from family members, community members, and
okay,
some recorded jail calls.
Okay, I see. So, just from what the family knows about him and how he conducts himself, and they must know a little bit about some of the other girls he was with, and that would have been the most likely one. And then they had the phone call recordings?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Antonia Bautista Dawson was also arrested later in 2018, and she pled guilty to being an accessory to a felony by helping Niji hide his guns.
Oh, okay. So she was involved. Okay, I see.
And jail calls revealed that Niji wanted Antonia to get his guns for him so that when he got bailed out of jail, he'd be able to use them to harm people that were cooperating with the investigations against him.
Man.
And Antonia was sentenced in January 2019 to 3 years in jail, but 18 months of that will be in jail and 18 months will be on supervised release, so probation. And the term of her sentence is that she can't have any contact with Niji.
Okay.
Another, I think, key person in this story, according to the family, is Niji's mother. And her house has been searched as well as a couple of other houses. And it was reported to the police that Niji's mom had been burning things in her burn barrel for like 2 days shortly after Kadijah went missing. And when she was questioned about it, she said that she was burning dogs.
Burning dogs?
Yeah. And also, she was spraying out the inside of her house with a hose, as well as painting it, but she said she was just remodeling.
What the heck? Like a regular garden hose?
Yeah.
Man, oh man.
So that's really weird.
So, and the cops can't pull anything from that. I mean, I guess they can't just say, well, that's weird, you're arrested.
Well, they have collected evidence, and there's been no results back from it yet. So it's been over a year, and they haven't received any analysis back on any of the evidence that they might have found.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if she was burning dogs, they can go in there and find what she was burning, right? There'd have to be some kind of evidence left.
Yeah.
Although from some of my other true crime experiences and whatnot, actually from making a murder, a burn barrel is kind of a perfect way to really get rid of a lot of evidence with fire. The way that the air works and whatnot.
Well, no.
Yeah, that's what it said. It said that, if you just try to burn something in a pit, it's not really going to work out. But if you put it in a burn barrel, the way that the barrel works, it actually burns matter down quicker. So that's what, if you're looking to get rid of a body, you have to use a burn barrel, which I don't know that from personal fact. It's just from Netflix videos. So, did they test that? Did they test that barrel and the stuff that was in it?
I haven't been able to find what exactly that they're trying to get anything from, and they haven't made any of that public. And the family has said that they haven't gotten any results from that, from what the police have told them.
Well, that
so
right
they don't know exactly what they took, and they don't know exactly what they're looking for.
And that just seems to be the simple steps that any law enforcement should be taking. I mean, to me, that's the number one priority thing. Take some tests of that burn barrel and see what was in that. And then even if it was a bunch of dogs, then address this lady about why she's burning a bunch of dogs in her burn barrel.
Yeah, exactly.
But otherwise, I mean, that seems like it'd be forensic evidence site number one.
Yeah, because that's weird.
Isn't there anything the family can do to get him moving a little bit more?
They have been trying, and they put a lot of pressure on different law enforcement agencies, and they've done a really good job at doing that because it's pushed them to do a lot more when they shouldn't even have to do that.
Okay, so let's talk about the investigation. What did they do?
Well, shortly after Kadijah went missing, the police were able to find that her Facebook was accessed after the time she last had contact with her family on February 7th, but it was like a quick access, as though she just looked through things really quick, and the family said that it isn't like her. She said if she had her phone and had access to Facebook, there would be no reason that she wouldn't be posting or commenting or messaging people. So they think whoever accessed her Facebook was trying to see what was going on and if there was anything going on in the search for Kadijah. So staying on top of things before that they became public or whatever.
Yeah. So someone was creeping on her Facebook.
Yeah. And they weren't able to track where the Facebook was logged on from. And Kadijah's cell phone wasn't able to be tracked either because it was a prepaid phone that a domestic violence program gave her.
A domestic violence program.
Yeah. So it was like a prepaid burner phone.
Well, I guess one thing anybody listening can kind of take from these episodes is, some of these people, I mean, I guess people can change. People can fix themselves where they're, they can have regular relationships with people. But if someone sets down these dark paths, it only seems to get worse and worse.
Yeah, it does. And I think that somebody who is an abuser needs a lot of work in order to become not an abuser. Well, yeah, because it's not like they're purposely doing it. That's just how they are, and they really need to change themselves. And they have to want to do that, and most of them don't. Yeah, I mean, you've been working in Indigenous victim services for a while now. Do you think it's possible, or do you think it's possible, or do you just kind of hope that there are people out there that can change themselves for the better? Do you think it's possible to get rid of that part of themselves? I mean, I think it's possible, but I don't think it's likely. It's just so difficult to change somebody when it's that ingrained in them. Yeah. It's just so unfortunate. I mean, and I'm going to go ahead and say I think does it stem from childhood and your parents and stuff like that? Yeah, it can stem from that. It's also generational. So if you see your mom in an abusive relationship, then that's what you're going to grow up thinking that a relationship is like. So when it starts happening to you, you don't think that it's wrong, and you just think that's how a relationship is, and you don't know any different. So unless there's intervention, and that's why a lot of domestic violence prevention programs target youth and young people to teach them what a healthy relationship is, so that they realize that maybe what they've seen isn't right.
Yeah. Oh, man, it's just such an unfortunate situation. And, it's not like I didn't know that these stories were out there, but covering a different story each week and hearing these situations where there is a lot of similarities with these girls and some of their situations. I mean, they've dealt with organizations for domestic violence many times, and sometimes they go to the police beforehand, oh, man, it's just kind of frustrating. So you were mentioning that the family had been making efforts to kind of kick the law enforcement into gear. What kind of things has the family been doing?
They have been organizing search parties. They take tips themselves, and they reach out to people, and they try to get any information that they can and then pass that on to police. I went really deep into the Facebook page that the family has called Help Find Kadijah Britain, and there's so many people that have come together to try and help Kadijah and her family. There's people that are offering rides to family members to get to different court dates. They attend a lot of missing and murdered Indigenous women awareness events, and they have fundraisers. And there's a lot of people that share the dreams that they have about Kadijah, hoping that it might spark something in a local person's mind. And then when they do post their dream, if somebody says that I had a dream about Kadijah and a bridge and Red River, and that someone's like, oh, there's a Red River here and there's a bridge over here, I'll go look. Oh, so wow. It's people are actively taking these tips, and no matter what, they're looking into it more. And I think that's really awesome that there's so many people that have come together for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the awareness out there for the MMIW cases, and also this one's pretty fresh. I mean, she went missing February 7th of 2018. That was not that long ago.
No, not at all.
And she was from California. What reservation was she from?
Round Valley.
Round Valley. Kadijah Britain. So the family has been making a lot of efforts to get things moving. There's a lot of support for them. Hey, can we post that? You said there's an actual Facebook page for this one?
Yeah.
We can post that to our Indigenous page. You guys can go check that one out. That's really cool to hear. What else do you have to say on this one?
Well, there has been a couple of press conferences, and I think those have been really helpful for the family as well as the police, especially since that one brought out a witness. And Kadijah's grandpa spoke at one of the press conferences, and he thinks that Niji killed her in cold-blooded murder and that he had to have had a motive. He thinks that Kadijah knew something that Niji did, and he didn't want her to be able to talk.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like she was set to testify. Well, it sounds like she was going to testify. She got threatened to not testify, and then she didn't show up to testify. I mean, that's almost like it's a bad movie.
Yeah. And the Round Valley Tribal Council has also made a statement urging the people to come forward with any information that they have. Since Cavelo is so small, somebody has to know what happened, and I don't think there's any question about that part. But people are afraid to come forward, and they don't want to be snitches, and they don't want Niji to hurt them. It just really makes me wonder, at what point does giving family the truth and some answers that they've been questioning for over a year become more important than being labeled as a snitch?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that just crosses cultural boundaries and stuff, and it just doesn't make any sense. Hold on here. So what else was I going to say?
Also, the family has been able to offer a reward of $85,000 for information leading to finding Kadijah, and then another person put up a $25,000 reward for information that leads to the arrest and conviction in the case. So if being able to provide the family answers isn't enough motivation for someone to come forward with anything, maybe that amount of money can be the motivation. They can take it and get out of Cavelo so that they're not worried about themselves. But I hope it does.
I feel like media needs to. That's almost media's job. Like if someone comes forward and provides information for a case, instead of them trying to be kept silent by the media, it should almost be they're brought out and said, see this person right here, they're kind of a hero for providing this information. They did what they're supposed to do. And not only do they make awareness for those people bringing the information forward, but it also makes it so nobody's going to come after them because everybody knows, they're kind of in the spotlight a little bit. So how is somebody going to threaten them and do all that kind of thing without making it even more obvious?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but then I don't know because I've never been in that situation where I'm afraid to talk because somebody might hurt me. So I don't know the extent of the connections that Niji has, and maybe while he's in prison, he can
Yeah.
tell people to do things for him. So it's a really sticky situation for me just because I've never been in that situation.
Yeah, and he definitely has shown he's capable of that with the recorded conversations about moving his guns. And then also the speculation that he might have threatened Khadijah's, her younger brother or her brother?
Her brother, yeah.
Her brother. So, I mean, he definitely sounds like he could be capable of that. And then you never know, they have a smaller area. So I guess you wouldn't be worried too much about gang violence where they have gang movements and stuff like that. But even still, like I mentioned, the spotlight, as soon as that spotlight goes off, the news cameras leave, that person who come forward with information could be sitting at their house vulnerable. They might be down the street from somebody that knows this guy.
Yep. And I think that's what's stopping people from coming forward.
So how do we fix that then? I mean, that might be a hard question to answer, but I mean, is it a monetary reward that's going to be able to do it, or is it a cultural shift where people are able to not feel bad for being a snitch because, the old saying, snitches get stitches and stuff, which is just silly. I mean, how do we fix that?
I wish I knew. I think that it's kind of a combination of both because I don't understand why people who come forward with information about a murder are seen as the bad people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, sometimes you see different cases and, there'll be like a youth who did a terrible crime and he'll be in jail for it. And then his parents and he has all these lobbying supporters saying that he's innocent, he didn't do this or he didn't do that. I mean, it's just the culture of it all is kind of weird.
Yeah, and people can be in prison for like murder and like really, really terrible things, and then everyone's like, free my brother. And it's like, why? He's a murderer. Yeah,
exactly. Or I remember a while back too, they had a picture of it was on our show prep. It was a mugshot of some dude in jail, and the people were saying that he could have been a model because his mugshot looked good. All of a sudden, he seemed like a hero to the media.
Oh, yeah, I remember him. He is a model now, and he got his teeth fixed.
Okay, well, I guess it turned around for him, but otherwise, I mean, he's still a criminal. He was in jail for doing crime.
Yeah.
And then, there might be people, and he gets there, but, yeah, okay.
But, well, other than the couple of things that I've already mentioned with the investigation, there is a couple of other things I want to touch on with that, because we've talked about it as being negative things in previous stories. But jurisdictional issues are a big problem in a lot of tribal communities. But in this case, I don't think it was as big of a problem as in others, because the tribal police handed it over to the county sheriff, and that falls under Public Law 280. But the FBI also came in to help with the DNA analysis and preserving evidence and things like that. So all three of these agencies are working together for one cause, and I think that is what needs to happen everywhere.
Yeah, that is good to see because sometimes there is some friction between the agencies.
And the family actually was the first to call the FBI because the family really wanted the FBI to get involved because they didn't feel that the sheriff and the sheriff was doing enough. And the FBI said that the sheriff is the one that has to request the FBI's help. And the sheriff did end up requesting help from the FBI, and I'm really glad that they did that because the FBI has more resources than the county sheriff or the tribal police.
I wonder why they did request the help of the FBI. I mean, it sounds like I wonder why they didn't seem to attack the crime earlier in the game, because at first it seemed like they didn't care. They were saying, she just ran away and stuff like that.
Yeah, until that witness came forward. And the family has been pretty outspoken about their thoughts on how law enforcement has been in investigating Kadijah's disappearance, and they feel that the police are acting as if it's not a priority. In one of the press conferences that the police did, the police took time to say that they have put thousands of hours into work into Kadijah's disappearance so far, and that they reported that as of October, there were 60 tips to the anonymous tip line that they have set up, and 20 tips were from psychics or people that said they had a vision or a dream, but they're only looking for viable leads.
Yeah, as much as you want to believe that there is something out there, and who knows when it comes to that kind of stuff, but it's kind of hard to take a lead from a psychic as a police officer, I'd say.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that say that they're a psychic or a medium, and they try and take advantage of people when they're in other vulnerable states like that, trying to make money or whatever they try to do. And it ends up hurting a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I think it's good that the family is looking into some of those that seem like they make sense, I guess.
Yeah,
the dreams, the visions.
Yeah, because dreaming is a big part of Native culture all over the place, and how that might be incorporated right into everyday life and everything. Who knows? Who knows what's out there? That's why it's hard for us to comment on. But if you're, law enforcement and you got 60 different calls coming in, it's a little more difficult to follow some of those leads because, someone says there's a red river and there's someone, it's worth going to check some of that stuff out.
Yeah, I think so too, especially when they're not even from the area. They're from a different part of the United States, and they call and say, I had a dream about Kadijah.
Yeah, for sure. Something I'm a little interested in here is you said there's a couple press conferences. Are we able to get that audio for the listeners to hear, or can we tell them where it's at?
We can get the audio for that for sure. There's actually quite a bit of news coverage from this because the family pushed so hard. So there is like a local newspaper and then a local reporter that has been posting a lot of stuff. So I can get those figured out. Then we can share those too.
How do you think you'll do it? You think we could probably put like some video clips at the end of our video here if you want to check out press conference stuff, or do you think you'll post in a separate location?
I think just at the end of this video, and people can just keep listening and watching.
Very good. So if you want to check out some of the press conference content and footage from this case, you mentioned there's something from the grandfather, something from the police. You can check that out at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So we're going to have that kind of video content. Then we'll try to get cameras right in our studios. These episodes are starting to move along, but I'll tell you, they are just frustrating stories.
Yeah, they are. It's reading, when I'm researching different stories, I get to the point where I need to just walk away for a minute because it's really, really frustrating. But the most recent effort for finding Kadijah that is from earlier this month, investigators drained a pond in Cavelo and they brought cadaver dogs there to try to find any human remains, but that search led to nothing.
Okay, so
that
was that the latest update or no?
Yeah, that was the latest update from March.
Well, I got a question for that then. So last month they drained out a pond to search for they had cadaver dogs searching for bodies. Were they specifically looking for Kadijah?
Yeah, they were specifically looking for her, and they didn't say what made them search there.
Oh, okay.
But people think that it's because somebody might be talking, and they must have received something that makes it seem like they should have drained it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put all that time into that.
Yeah, but they're not talking about why they drained that.
Right.
It could have been one of those 60 anonymous tips or something that came in. Yeah.
There was also other official searches made by law enforcement in January of this year and September of last year in like specific areas, but the family has done a lot of searches on their own as well. Okay.
So another question would be then for people that might want to support the family for those searches and stuff, because, funds, you need funds for that kind of stuff. Is there a way that people can donate or contribute to this kind of thing? Is there something on their page?
They got some wristbands recently, and I think they might be selling those. They also had some bumper stickers and a GoFundMe set up. So if you want to look into their Facebook page to find different ways that you can contribute to their efforts, that's probably where I would look.
Okay, very good, because, our first story, I think, was from the 80s, so there's not as much as, we as regular people can do, but this one is such a fresh case, and the search is on. The police, they're not doing much. The family's trying to do this kind of thing on their own. So you can make a direct contribution to one of these stories right now. You just got to go on Facebook and search it up.
Yeah, and definitely the family is very active on the Facebook page or the Facebook group. So if you can't find anything or can't figure out what you can do, you can ask, and I'm sure that they'd be more than happy to talk to you.
All right. So is there anything else for this episode?
Not that I mean, we've touched on domestic violence and the dangers associated with people leaving abusive relationships before, so I don't really want to go on a tangent about that again, but that just know that is the most dangerous part of an abusive relationship is when she leaves. And that I cannot stress that enough.
Yep. So, I mean, if you have someone coming to you about some of their relationship issues and you're thinking that it's at a certain level where it's, you're like, that's bad. Just realize if that person decides to leave that relationship, it could get even worse it's more likely to get worse then, right?
Right.
How scary. I mean, how scary of a situation for people to be in. There's got to be like support lines or support for that kind of thing too, right? I mean, getting out of the relationship. I mean, not just the domestic violence shelters. Is there like a high risk type of thing or something?
Like a high risk, like what?
I don't even know. I mean, I guess there wouldn't be a high risk breakup service out there, but these relationships between these people, because the abusers often, in a way, depend on the person they're abusing. I mean, that's one of the reasons I would say that they need that control. They're addicted to that control or whatever, so they feel like they need them. So there's no way they're going to let them out of their lives.
Yeah, and if that person is leaving, then they realize that they're losing control, and that's why it gets more dangerous, because they're going to do what they can to get that control back.
I mean, yeah, it's like taking drugs from a drug addict or something. They're going to just flip.
Yeah. I mean, there is domestic violence shelters are there for people who are leaving relationships, and there is also like national domestic violence hotlines that can help you safety plan, and safety planning is super important too, because it helps you to keep safe while you're leaving, but it also can help you to keep safe if you're staying.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see. So, I mean, say some of the places that you've worked, a girl comes to you and she says she's never been touched. She's never been verbally abused, but she's telling you that she's trying to break up with her significant other, or he or she even, and they just know that something's going to go wrong. Does that kind of thing get covered by those services? If they just even fear it, but there's not even much, physical evidence or events that have happened to show it?
Well, it's with domestic violence in the places that I've worked, you don't need proof of anything. If somebody comes to me and says that they feel that their boyfriend who they're about to leave is going to hurt them when she leaves, then I believe that. Like, I don't need evidence, and I don't need you to prove to me that this is what you went through. I believe anybody that says that I've been through domestic violence. Well, I mean, and I know that's how a lot of places are.
What if she told you that? What if she came to you and even told you, like, nothing's ever happened, and I'm trying to leave him, but I just know I'm scared something is going to happen?
To me, it's like that fear stems from somewhere, and if they know that, then I'd help them.
Very good. So I just want to get that out there for anybody who might be in one of those situations where some of these patterns are starting early and you're catching it, because these stories that we're talking about, the patterns there's patterns here, and they're going in certain ways, and it's ending up with these girls disappearing.
Yeah.
Man. All these stories they're just frustrating. This one at least, I mean, it just happened, so maybe we'll get more good updates on this one.
I hope so. But if you have any information about the disappearance of Khadijah Britain, please call the anonymous tip line at 707-352-2100. And like I said before, you can also share any information you might know or want to share with Khadijah's family through their Facebook group, Help Find Kadijah Britain.
Very good. And once again, these episodes air on Eagle Radio every Saturday at noon Eastern Time. You can find them on YouTube. We have an email. Ariel, can you give them the email one more time?
indigenousinsightsmmiw@gmail.com.
We're also on Twitter, and please don't hesitate to contact us. And hey, we're going to be having the content then from those videos after the episode here?
Yeah.
And can you tell us again what video content you do have? You mentioned something with the grandfather.
Yeah, the grandfather spoke at a press conference, and the police spoke at the press conference as well, so we can definitely post that.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else you have to say?
Well, actually, there is a podcast episode the Vanished podcast that covers Khadijah's story, but this was back in October, so it's missing the most recent developments. But Khadijah's aunt actually was interviewed for that podcast, so that's just another place to listen if you'd like to hear more from the family.
Oh, very cool. Okay, so we have the podcast with the aunt. We'll have a couple of some content from the press conferences here after the episode, and we'll also post that Facebook page to our Facebook page because you can directly contribute to this one. It just happened last year. Kadijah Britain, missing at the age of 23, went missing February 7th, 2018. What else, Ariel? Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
That's it.
All right. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is Indigenous Insights Missing and Murdered.
I want people to know that she's so very loved. I just hope my baby comes home safely.
For KZYX News, I'm Sarah Reif. Close to 100 people gathered outside Keith's Market in Covelo on Thursday night to hold a candlelight vigil for 23-year-old Kadijah Rose Britain. Britain was abducted at gunpoint on February 9th. Her kidnapper, Neji Fallis, is in custody, but he has not revealed her whereabouts. Community members prayed and sang and pleaded with anyone who knows anything to come forward. According to a press release from the sheriff's office, 37-year-old Fallis came into a residence on Airport Road in Covelo, armed with a pistol, and demanded that Britain come outside with him. Fallis was referred to as Britain's boyfriend, and he had abused her as recently as January. After what the press release refers to as a physical altercation, Britain and Fallis left in a black Mercedes sedan. Britain's family has not heard from her since. I spoke with Britain's mother after the vigil.
My name's Connie Hostler. I'm Khadijah's mom, and I just did this because I want everybody to keep hope and keep faith, and just to bring my baby home and keep her safe. And hopefully, if people see this, maybe they'll come forward, because I really need my baby home.
What do you want people to know?
I want people to know that she's so very loved.
If you could say something directly to someone who knows something, what would you say?
Please come forward. Even if it's something small, just come forward. At least let us get to her safe and see that she's safe, not hurt. If she is hurt, maybe we can get her help immediately. It's a scary situation. I mean, I would never wish this on anybody. It's so much hurt and so much pain, so much sorrow. I just hope my baby comes home safely.
We sat on a little stone wall looking at a table covered with candles and framed pictures of Kadijah. Women filed by, hugging the grieving mother and murmuring kind words.
And she would always call me, even though she's mad at me, or I was mad at her. She would always call me, "Mommy, I'm here, I'm okay." So this is all brand new. This is not like her.
There was snow in the mountains in Covelo on Thursday night. I left as people were bundling into their cars to head home. But Connie Osler sat on a cold stone wall, looking at pictures of her missing daughter as the candles continued to burn. For KZYX News, I'm Sarah Reif. The sheriff's tip line is 234-2100.
Kadijah! That's one. That's for the east. Kadijah! That's two. That's for the south. Kadijah! That's three. That's for the west. Kadijah! That's four. That's for the north.
For KZYX News, I'm Sarah Reif. The front yard of the Ukiah Courthouse was packed with close to 100 people yesterday, as Sheriff Tom Allman prepared to give an update on the search for Kadijah Britain. Britain has been missing since early February. Earlier this week, Neji Fallis, the prime suspect in the case, was remanded into custody to serve a 4-year sentence in San Quentin for being a felon in possession of a firearm. Previous charges of kidnapping and assaulting Britain were dropped. Allman pleaded with anyone who has any information about Britain's disappearance to come forward now.
I'm talking to the Covelo community, the Round Valley community now. There are substantial rewards on the table. We're a member of WeTip, the 1-800-78-CRIME. We have an anonymous tip line, 707-234-2100. And certainly any information that would get to the tribal police would get to us. We want to solve this crime. And hopefully today, somebody out there will understand the amount of reward and will understand that the right thing to do is get the information to us.
Allman elaborated on what WeTip is.
So WeTip we started using today, as of today. WeTip guarantees your anonymity. They will keep you quiet, your name quiet, whether it's received through the internet or the phone. There are people who do not trust local law enforcement. There are people who do not trust the FBI. There are people who do not trust government. WeTip is a non-government agency that allows for information to be brought in, and they deliver it to us, and we follow up on their information.
He estimated that so far the sheriff's tip line has received about 60 tips, not counting an additional 20 from psychics. And he went into detail about his department's investigation.
We've conducted 80 documented interviews. We've searched over 20 vehicles and purged properties with consent searches and 5 cell phones. We've written and executed at 6 locations search warrants for locations, 10 search warrants for telephones, and 26 search warrants for social digital media. The Mendocino County Sheriff's Office, the Detective Bureau, so not the Patrol Division, has so far invested 3,462 hours in this investigation. And we're not saying that by saying this is the biggest we've done, but I want people to understand that we're not taking this investigation lightly. We're continuing our investigation. And by saying that since February we put 3,462 hours in this investigation, not including the 4,000 hours of search and rescue, I think is very significant to the ongoing investigation.
A spokesman for the family said that with Fallis behind bars, he hopes someone will come forward with good information. Allman fears that Fallis could serve just a fraction of his sentence if the provisions of Prop 57 are applied. And Ronnie Osler, his voice breaking as horns honked and helicopters flew overhead, demanded to know why his granddaughter is still missing. I spoke with a member of an organization called Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, who reminded the crowd of the grim context of Britain's disappearance. We heard her at the top, saying the name Kadijah.
My Indian name is Sister Who Walks with Bears, but my colonized name is Marge Grow Eppard. I'm one of the 1,000 voices with missing, murdered Indigenous women, here to stand in solidarity with this family today and to show respect and get some answers for them, some closure. What the government would like us to do is have statistics and graphs and all this stuff. We're more interested in the people. We got to find them now. We have to have closure for these families, for these friends, for these loved ones. We are the highest rate missing, murdered, in domestic violence, raped, molested, and nobody does anything for us. So now we're coming in as the voice for this to stop. We're starting to light a fire under these government officials, this police department, the FBI, the BIA, CIA, anything. We're to light a fire that we are no longer going to be misrepresented. We say no more stolen sisters. It's done. We come out here, you say her name. That's why it was important. We say her name 4 times for the 4 directions. Everything's in 4s, even the seasons. That's very important.
So do you travel all over the country? Because I understand that...
I just do California. We have different ones all over the country. And right now, I'm on this side of California, so I said, absolutely, I will be there. My sister Laura came here, my brother, they traveled a long way too, but that does not matter because we do creators' work. We do this for this family. We pass out the shawls and the bandanas, no charge, because we need recognition out there that we are not being represented as a Native people. We're not being heard, and it's going to stop now. I don't care if I get a bullet. I still have 300 people that's going to say, now you really ticked us off. You killed our spiritual leader. It won't stop until we start getting justice for our people.
Do you have any idea how many Indigenous women are missing in California right now?
How many Indigenous women are on your spectrum of being recognized as a Native American. There is no answer. We don't know. The police aren't letting us know. The boarding school took many of us. We don't know if they're missing, murdered. We have no idea. So that question really does not have an answer until the police department and the FBI and all of them start doing their jobs and saying, look, we're bringing your people home. This is our land. California is our land. Mother Earth is hurting. Why? Because this is what's happening to our sacred life givers and our children. Our men are incarcerated. They're with drugs and alcohol. They don't have clear eyes. Where's our protection? It's supposed to be these law enforcements, but it's not. It's now the women that are protecting. That's sad.
Do you have any triumphant stories where you succeeded in bringing someone home?
We just had one from Oakland come home. There's a few others that are in New Mexico, another one in Arizona, another one in Florida. That's how far out this goes. But with every one that we get back with a good report, there's thousands still out there that are unaccounted for. We need to put faces on them, their names, say their names, bring them home.
If you know anything about what happened to Kadijah Britain, you can call the Sheriff's Tip Line at 707-234-2100. You can also leave a tip at WeTip, which is so anonymous if you start to identify yourself, the operator will hang up on you and ask that you call back and speak to someone else. They can be reached at 1-800-78-CRIME or at wetip.com. For KZYX News, I'm Sarah Reith.